so are we ready?
This is Jay.
This is A,
And this is Moxicated.
where we drop the booze and walk through the reality of life alcohol-free.
So grab your favorite mock, get ready to laugh, and let's get Moxicated.
Well, hello.
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 I feel lighter than the last time I said hello to you.
Yes. I feel like you could have felt it in our hellos last time.
I also wasn't wearing glasses in last week's episode, and it feels strange for me to look at the video. That's how you can tell it was like all out of whack, because I literally was barefaced.
Yeah.
Feels strange.
Which actually ended up being a hilarious episode.
We laughed through our darkness.
Yes, through the darkness.
Well, I thrive, I think, in the darkness as a Scorpio. I mean, I'm always angry or touching into the taboo or, getting in fights with people while I drive, which has, happened a lot this past couple weeks. Actually, I always get in fights with people when I drive, which I know in this climate is scary.
Yeah. You need to chill out.
Well, listen, I know my place. I'm not gonna... Okay, except for this last time, which is really bad, guys. But usually, I don't antagonize. I don't keep going. What happens is I drive a minivan, but I know how to get places. I am an efficient driver. I've said this before. I'm not a good driver. I am an efficient driver. I get to where I need to go. I use the lanes as I intend for them to be used. And there is a lot of egos that drive around in our city.
Many. Everyone's the best driver.
And they don't like when a minivan zips around them. It really enrages them. There's something inside their body that's like, no, this minivan's trying to fight me, race me. Listen, I'm just trying to get to where I'm going. I don't care if you're driving fast, if you want to beat me, if you don't want to beat me. But I do kind of find it funny when they start getting upset. So then maybe I play into it a little bit. But the thing that happens to me a lot is I get a lot of old people that flip me off.
I love when old people will flip people off.
Because it's always without the thumb.
Yeah.
So it's just like an old person hand. And they shake it at you. So that's funny. But recently I got in a road rage incident because of where I was in my mental state that was not the best. This man was yelling at me, the number 2, but didn't roll his window down. And so I was just cool. And then I flipped him off. He was an old man, okay? So, I know who to flip off and who not to flip off, okay? There's some cars that I just keep looking forward and don't do anything. This guy had a feather in his cap, okay? Let's just call him Yankee Doodle Dandy. So he was 2, 2, 2, and so I flipped him off, and then I licked my flipped off finger, and then he started
That would enrage me. The lick would enrage me.
And I looked him dead in the eye when I did it. Then he stuck his hand out and started doing a very obscene gesture, what men do in their personal time, okay, in the bathroom. Yeah. But he was doing it out the window. I was like, you're disgusting. Gross. So then I start driving, and he's playing cat and mouse with me a little bit, and again, I don't care. But then he starts following me and getting too close.
Yeah.
So
scary.
I got into the next lane, and then he comes next to me and is trying to yell at me again, and then goes to turn down. And this is where I made my mistake, okay? I then swerved and got behind him.
Oh no.
Because I was like, you're not gonna play.
You are a psychopath.
I was in the mood too. I was like, no, not today, not today. So then I'm behind him. Oh, and this is something I always do, okay, even if I'm not recording, is I hold up my phone so people think I'm recording.
Yeah.
Because then they do different things. If someone's and then you hold up their phone, they're they really, especially the older people, they don't want to be caught doing
on
these
camera.
things on camera. Younger people don't care. We're we don't care. Film me all you want. So then I realized my mistake, and I'm this is dumb. He goes to turn off, and so I just keep driving, because I was I'm not going to risk my life today. Well, and behold, he gets behind me after I drove past him.
God.
So I was oh, Jess, what are you going to do? This is stupid. I keep trying to pull over, and he just is behind me. And so finally I went over to where my daughter's cheerleading gym is, because I felt safe over there. And he pulls up next to me, and I said, leave me alone. He's like, you almost caused 2 accidents. And then, like, goes and flips a Yui, so he's next to me again with his window down. And I was like, you're a weird old man. And that really triggered something in Yankee Doodle Dandy. I don't think he considered himself an old man. Like, I don't think when he looked in the mirror, he thought he was old. Like, so that really, like, he could not believe. Yeah, he could not believe he got called old. He could not believe it. So then he goes, whatever, you look like a hag. And I seriously was so sensitive at that moment, and I did not know what to say. I was speechless, and then I flipped my head around and I said, my son's in the hospital, you asshole. And he went, good, I'm glad, and drove off.
Oh,
I know. And so I was like shaking. I was like grabbing my coffee, trying to take the lid of the coffee off. Like, if I saw this man again, I was just going to go up and dump my coffee on him. And then I'm like, Jess, no one knows what happened before. They're just going to see you walk up and dump coffee on this man. You can't have that with everything else you're going through right now.
Yes.
So I was very embarrassed. I wasn't going to tell anybody, but of course.
And then decided to tell the world.
Well, and then it's so funny too, because in my head I'm like, I can't tell Philip. Philip's going to be so mad at me. Like, he's going to be like, babe, why did you do that? And then I call him and I'm like, babe, please don't be mad at me, but something just happened. And then of course he's all, what does he drive? I'm like, oh, are you going to hunt Yankee Doodle down? You're going to find him? I'm like, just look for the guy with the feather in his cap.
We'll be looking for the feather in the cap.
Oh, so that's my dark side that I don't like to admit, but thank God I'm still here.
Yeah.
Thank God he just wanted to tell me that I was a hag.
You are definitely not a hag.
I was like, on his worst day, he could never get me, or on his best day, he could never get me on my worst day. Like, I'm like telling myself all this stuff to like make myself feel better from this random
Yankee Doodle cap. If it makes you feel any better, driving a Prius, you just get no respect ever.
Oh,
so
poor girl. You're just used to it. You're like, oh,
because since I've driven the trucks where people really are like, whoa, let this person go through the Prius, there's no respect in that car.
Gosh,
but that's okay, because I'm like, hey, I'm not buying gas, so laters.
Keep going,
yeah.
Suckers.
And then I turn on power mode, and I'm like, my go-kart's out of there.
Oh, well, life's been rough.
It has. It's been I would say a rocky road, not the ice cream.
Which I don't like anyway.
I don't like rocky road ice cream either. Which I love chocolate ice cream. But I feel like the mallows don't mix well. I don't know. I'm not a rocky road fan.
See, and I like marshmallow, but I'm like, that's the only thing in there that I like.
Yeah.
Isn't there marshmallow in it?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't eat it. It's been rocky. It's been rocky. And we've been going through it, and we thought we would just have a talk about life and what we've been going through lately, because it's been super rough, and I think collectively, like, we can all feel it. I think collectively a lot of people have been going through it, and the things that we have all been going through are as different as us. Like, you know, it's not like, oh, everyone's experiencing the same sort of thing. It's like everyone is experiencing some kind of like tumultuous stuff, or like changing, or like deep pulling out of roots, and it's not fun.
No. And I think too, we do so many subjects on Moxicated, but a lot of the time we don't do like currently what's going on with us. You know, like, we talk before, like, good story and stuff, but I think it's been a while since we've given you guys like life updates.
Yeah.
And so today we're gonna
update you.
Decided.
Well, and last week I think I was a little cryptic in what I said, like some that I've had hard stuff and I wasn't really ready to talk about it, and that's because I was still going through it. And I'm very superstitious, and the fact that like I'm not, even though like we record these a couple days in advance, like I'm not gonna say something has happened or like give an update about something that is still happening that I don't know is going to be updated. So
no, totally. I feel that way.
Yeah.
But so, you want me to go first?
Oh, sure. You go first.
Okay, so mine has actually been going on for a long time. And mine, what I'm first going to talk about is my health. and I've been cryptic in a lot of episodes that I'm going through some health things and that I have all this stuff going on. And I think a big part of why I am cryptic about it is because I still am happy. Like, even though I'm going through huge life changes, I still am thriving in my family. My kids are thriving. We're doing it all. And so I think it can be confusing for people sometimes to find out what I'm truly going through because they're like, what?
Yeah.
But I'm like, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm dealing with it and I'm processing it all very well. But there's just, I think too, right now with my kids being 5 and 7, which Atlas turned 6 this week, which is so crazy.
That's so crazy. It's gonna
but
be
I know
from 5 to 6 when you tell people how old your kids are.
Oh, but I think too, like, our lives are just really fast paced right now with all of our activities and all of that. But so, last summer I had some blood work done because I was noticing hair loss. And so I had some blood work done, and it came back that I am anemic and pre-diabetic, which the anemia was like, kind of like, okay, this kind of makes sense for what's going on with my body. And something kind of funny, I've always loved dirt. I've always wanted to eat dirt. I've always wanted to, like,
I remember this.
Eat the taste of rain. Like, like
eat the taste of rain.
Yeah, like, it's weird. And I do think sometimes that's my craving of cigarettes. Is like, I wanted the nasty taste in it. And that is something sense. That goes with anemic. And like, anemic people, they want to like eat dirt.
Well, and they ask you this when you're pregnant.
Yes.
And I'm guessing for this reason.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I was actually anemic when I was pregnant. And I've been tested for anemia many times in my life, but it never came back that I was, except for when I was pregnant. And then right when I was done being pregnant, my levels went back up. But so now I'm back to a place where I'm anemic, and that's why I'm having my hair loss. And then now the pre-diabetic, which is also strange just for my body type and all of that. But so I started doing an anemic and pre-diabetic diet and started taking a lot of supplements, and then we were having blood tests done in the fall to see, how I could change this through lifestyle, because I truly did think I could change this through lifestyle. And
you are one determined girl.
Yes, I am. And so I started working out. I started not working out, but doing the different kinds of movement that pre-diabetic people had advised. And so from there, I got my blood work done, and my levels were worse. The anemia and pre-diabetic, they were not changed after changing my whole diet and everything. And you guys know I love sweets. And so that was very hard on me to stop eating all of the desserts and everything, but I knew I had to. So then that led me into some other investigating with doctors. And so then in November, I had a colonoscopy and an endoscopy. And when I had that done, it did look irregular. They did tell me, you don't have cancer. That's not what we're seeing, but there's some irregularity.
Irregularities.
There you go. In your small intestines. And so they did the biopsies, and it came back that I have severe celiac disease. And so since I have severe celiac disease, my small intestines, that normally your intestines has like carpet-like texture in it, mine, the doctor even said, it's like a slip and slide in there. And I was like, oh my God, like, can you please not? But then it does give like a very visual, it should be like carpet, and it's a slip and slide.
Yeah.
And so he was like, that is celiac disease. And we don't know the severity from it. You'll have to get a blood test done and all of this stuff. But so he told me that day, you should never eat gluten ever again. He's like, when we get off of the phone, don't ever, and this was the first week of December, he was like, you might want to cheat during Christmas with all the cookies and the meals and everything. He was like, but I want to let you know your small intestines has been compromised, and the next thing it will go after is your bones, and you're a white female, and white females are more likely to get osteoporosis and all of that. So he was like, this is very serious. So the first week of December, I changed my whole life all over again, started a new diet. I got on Instagram and asked the world who the best nutritionist was to find, and everyone sent me to Veronica, which if you've listened to Hormones AF, that's Veronica, my most favorite person right now in my life.
Yes.
She is the best nutritionist, dietitian, and then with her therapist background, all of it, just she's truly a great person to have on my team. And so with her, she made me a meal plan, diet, all of that. And then we were working through other stuff and realized there's still something happening. My body is still severely inflamed. So from there, I went to Beyond Health and I had a lot of blood panels done. I had a female panel, a food sensitivity. I had all of it. And of course, my hormones are out of whack. And then my food sensitivity came back, and I actually am allergic to a lot more things than just gluten. And so already being on this gluten, anemic, and pre-diabetic diet took away a lot of my favorites, which as not a sober person, I truly feel like I connect through food with all my drinking friends. And so that was
rely on it a
yeah
lot. Yeah,
like instead of going to the bar, let's go eat, let's go get dessert, let's go do this, let's grab a treat, and so now with that, which I want to get back to that in a second, I'm just going to try to tell you my whole health plan. But so then after having that blood work done, the food sensitivity, it came back that I have a dairy allergy, that it's not just an intolerance that you can kind of flirt with. It is an allergy, along with tomatoes, avocados, lemons, pineapple, asparagus. It goes on. The list goes on. And even at this point, when I got this, I wrote Veronica, and she responded with, "Are you okay?" And I was like, you know what? No, I'm not okay. I don't know what to eat. I've been poisoning my body profusely. Things are not getting better. I'm already only eating a couple things, and this is not where I want to be. And she reassured me, this is okay. Knowledge is power. Now we know we are going to have to do a lot of changes in your diet. But these are great answers, because before we didn't have answers to why I was anemic, why I was pre-diabetic, why all of this. But being celiac and with my intestines having no phalanges, my body has stopped absorbing any nutrients. And so I'm basically malnourished is what the doctors have told me. And so just all of that is so much. And then on top of that, of course, my hormones.
Right.
And so they're like, all right, let's dose you with this, and this. And I'm just like sitting there like, I'm the most sensitive person already. Like, I can't start taking progesterone, testosterone, all of these other supplements all at once. I was like so overwhelmed. But thank God that the Christy at Beyond Health, she sat there and she gave me all of the options. This is everything. This is middle. This is beginner. This is if you want to only start with one, and so I ended up choosing kind of the middle just because I wanted to wait and see how my body kind of reacted to everything. And now I'm on a lot of like gut supplements to help boost the healing of my small intestines, because a lot of other random things happen when your gut is affected.
Your gut is connected to so many things.
Stress, energy,
everything
your
comes
face
from your gut.
Your face. I never had acne ever, and now in the last year and a half, I have not gone a week without acne. I used to get maybe one with my period, and now I'm like covered, and that's a whole other subject that I could talk about too, because I just feel bad for not having as much compassion for friends with severe acne. I'd be like, it's okay, just wear makeup. And it's like, no, the confidence and the self-esteem that comes with acne is a huge. I'm like, I could talk about that for hours. But so we're on this diet regimen now. I have very few foods that I can eat. The good thing is I'm not allergic to any fish. The bad news is I don't like fish.
I know.
I'm like, oh.
I remember
but no,
when I saw that part, your like fish section is like glowing green.
The only green is fish. And honestly though, like something kind of cool is I did have halibut at the end of January when I was on a work trip. Rebecca, the chef, she prepared it and I enjoyed it, and so I was like, okay, I'm ready to dip my feet in.
and you are a little Pisces fish.
Yes, and so I used to say that's why I didn't eat fish because I am one. But no, so now I am expanding my food, I guess, and trying a lot of new things and changing a lot of things. I think the saddest part is not even gluten or dairy for me. It's the tomatoes and avocado, just because that's salsa, that's guacamole, that I love Mexican food, and it is.
And we love dips.
Yeah, dips, like all the dairy, everything. And then that like also segues into me feeling like a fraud, like because my job is to inspire people to cook on Instagram through Albertsons and Market Street. And a lot of those recipes have been scheduled for 6 months. You know, we have a content calendar that we follow. And so then I'm like, okay, this whole tray, I'm not even eating.
You can't eat.
I can't eat.
Your family does.
But that's the flip side, is my family can. And half of the world can. And I have to remind myself that I am here to inspire people and show them options and how to cook and different random things. So I tell myself that often because I try to be very honest on Instagram, which if you guys follow me, you'll know I have not told any of this to Instagram.
Drop in here first.
Yeah. You heard it here first. But no, just because, and I don't know why I haven't, because I'm very open and I know that my life is on Instagram and I'm not, And well, I have a lot of trolls, and so I don't even have the energy to fight with them. Which usually I have something quirky to say back, or go shove a piece of bread in your mouth and shut up. But there have been people that have noticed like different gluten-free things, and they're like, "Are you going gluten-free?" And if people ask me, I tell them, everything. I just haven't actually been like, hey guys, I have celiac. I have this and that.
It's so weird in our day and age that like if we have a major life change that we internally wrestle with posting about it or not. Like it's so weird that like the way that we've grown up, we feel inauthentic if we don't share something that is major that happens to us on our public platform. But I do feel like maybe like as we're getting into the future, like that perception is changing a little bit, and it's not like I remember feeling like when something big happened to me, like I have to post about it, like I have to, like there was like a responsibility, and there isn't
at all. And honestly, a lot of my close friends and family have asked me like, are you gonna share it on Instagram? I've noticed you have it. And I'm like, yeah, whenever, like I don't know, when it feels right, or if it just comes out. And it's weird too, because like going through all of this, I'm mourning the old me. Like I truly am being forced to change.
Yeah.
Like this is not an option.
Right.
This is something that I have to do to stay alive and be able to grow old. And it's crazy. But at the same time, this is where I always feel like so contradictory, because I'm still so happy. And I think that throws a lot of people off, because they're always like, are you feeling better? Are you doing okay? And I'm like, yeah, I really wasn't feeling bad before. This all happened because my hair was falling out, because I'm a vain person and I have 100 hairs and I need to keep all 100.
I cannot lose one. You don't understand.
I need to keep all of them.
Our ponytails are that big.
Yeah.
If we can get them there.
My hair can all be held up with one bobby pin. So I need to keep every hair on this head. But no, really. And it's like, But so that's and then also, like, I am learning how to prep my own food and have it already prepped, but then also still trying to keep up with cooking food for my family, because I'm not at the point where I want my family to adhere to this diet. This diet isn't healthy for somebody that doesn't need to abstain from all of these things. Right. They need dairy. They need
tomatoes,
the starches and all of that. Like, balances everything. And so it's interesting. And I am getting into a good flow now of being able to figure out what I do like, and I prep my food, and then now I do cook more for the family, like on the day-to-day, rather than prepping as much for them. And so it's just kind of more of like it's just not as organized as I would like. But I'm starting to get into the flow. Yeah, and it just takes time for that too. But then, so on top of all of this last week, because I mean, life is still happening while this is going on. It's also Girl Scout cookie season, which I'm the troop leader, and it is overwhelming. Last week we had 3 meetings in the evening, and then one in the day to go pick them up. It's like there is so much going on still, right? And then on top of that, my Gram, she is 87, she's lived a very beautiful, long life. She got the flu 2 weeks ago and never recovered. And so she was in the hospital last week, and that is it's just horrifying when an old person is in the hospital.
Well, and let me just say this for you, because you probably won't, but Allie is like an extraordinary person to be in a relationship with, whether she's your friend, whether she's your wife, whether she's your mom, if she's your daughter, if she's your granddaughter, if she's your sister. I have known her for all of our lives. She is an incredible daughter. She is an incredible granddaughter. So this, I wasn't as good of a granddaughter as you are, for sure. Plus all my grandparents died at a very early, so... but to see, the dedication, the care that you have put into this relationship, it is more than most of our peers. So that is to give more of a background of how much this is affecting you, because you are incredible granddaughter, incredible daughter.
Well, thank you.
Above and beyond, girl. Above and beyond.
I just want to help everyone. And I want to be there for everyone.
And
it's just a hard time.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to also be there for myself. Mm-hmm. And be there for the Girl Scouts. And be there for my kids. And be there for the Girl Scout parents that are freaking out. That they're like, what have we done? Why are we
You made us sign up for this, Allie.
Why do we like you and wanted to be in Girl Scouts? Because we didn't want to join before. And so... It's a hard role to play. But I am giving myself grace. I do... have a lot of things that I am doing for myself too,
right?
But it's so much, and then that's where, like, on Instagram I posted, there's so many ups and there are so many downs, but we're here, we're living, we're loving, or something like that. And then I would go and look at stories, and somebody that had liked my post reposted something that said, we don't want to hear about your ups and downs, we want to know exactly what's going on.
Okay.
And it triggered me so bad. I responded, my grandma's dying and my kids are thriving. So there you go. And that was, and I'm like, okay, Allie, that's when I realized you need to take some time from Instagram and realize, not everything's about you, even though it feels like it, because when your life is a shitstorm, it does feel like
everything in your life is about you. To some degree.
Yes.
And you do have to put that first.
But so it just feels, it's a weird feeling of being very sad that my Gram, she's home now from the hospital, but she's home on hospice. And I mean, I've heard of people being on hospice for like 2 years.
Right.
And then I've heard of people like 1 week.
Yeah.
And you were just really never know. And we did have a beautiful weekend with her, and she said a lot of things that she hasn't said in years. And so me and my mom are both like, is this like a sign? Like, and the doctor did tell us, I feel like she has a lot more to say to you guys. And he had barely he didn't really even know us. Like, he wasn't even the doctor from the beginning. He sat there, and my grandma opened her eyes, and he, like, looked into them, and he was like, I can tell she has a lot more to say to her family and a lot more to offer. And gave her an extra dose of potassium before he sent her home on hospice.
Wow.
And so that was interesting, too. And so this last weekend, we were able to, I mean, she ate for the first time in 3 weeks,
Wow.
you know, and, like, did some things. But then she still is struggling pretty badly. And so someone told me this weekend that souls know when they're going to leave. And that did bring me, sorry,
Okay.
a lot of, like, just, I can't think of the word, just less stress that it's not going to be, if I'm there, you know,
Right, you can't control it.
Yeah, like, it let me release that control that I've been struggling with.
Yeah.
That it doesn't matter if I'm going to be there cooking for her or if I'm making sure she's comfortable, that she's going to go when she's going to go, you know? And that can be hard for a control freak, people pleaser.
Like, no, I want you to go and I
Yeah.
want you to go.
Yeah, like, no, I need to plan this, Graham.
Yeah,
like,
I'm going to be there. I'm
scheduling.
standing next to you.
Yeah, I'm trying to schedule
Give me your
this.
dates.
I've got a lot going on. But yeah, so that's, the balance of sadness and happiness and thriving and failure to thrive is like, it's just really a crazy mix, because then we already sold all of our cookies and are reordering, you know. It's like, I would
literally, like, dump them into the Rio Grande and be like, they're gone, we don't have any more orders either, I'm sorry.
But yeah, so it's like, that's where I'm on a roller coaster and I'm feeling it all and I'm enjoying it all. I'm hurting through it all.
Yeah.
But I think, too, I have such a great support in you and my other best friends and my husband and my mom and my siblings. And so I think I know everything is happening the way it's going to happen, and I can't control it. And I am in a better place this week since my grandma isn't there, and things with you are getting a little bit better, too, because that was really heavy on me too, because then my family was struggling, and then having your best friend struggling, and then just feeling so helpless when you're trying to be the person for everyone. It's hard.
I wouldn't be myself if I didn't mention this, but I think that a lot of your being able to deal with the heavy while also being positive can be attributed to your Pisces. I think that you have always been able to look at the bright side, literally always, even when it's annoying.
No. Stupid song, Mr. Brightside. No, I like it, but I hate it.
And I think that you have always found a way to, like, keep it positive, you know, even in our conversations about, like, how we talk in our head. Like, you're very positive to yourself, and that helps in situations like this. I know, you know, when I went dairy-free, which is literally nothing compared to what you're having to go through, like, I remember those feelings, and I think that if you are not someone that can focus on the glimmers, that can focus on the positive, like, you will go into a very dark place.
Yeah.
Understandably. Like, no one is going to be like, oh my gosh, like, why is she in a dark place? Like, it is so understandable what you're going through, and honestly, it's incredible. I've always thought it was incredible that you are able to look at the bright side and be able to see your glimmers even in the midst of your darkness, because that's what keeps you going, because other people will sit back and they won't move, and that's not you, and that's never been you.
I can also add that I literally would not be able to do this if I was drinking. Like, I can't even imagine coping with alcohol through any of this.
Well, and it's almost like you would be forced to give up alcohol against your own will.
Yeah.
Because of how your body is, because how much gluten is in alcohol, how much sugars are in alcohol, the different types of sugars.
Yeah.
So you would, that's so interesting to think about, be like forced to give it up against your will right now. And that would be hard. And imagine the shame over
Yeah.
Of not only everything else you were already shame over about, but I did this to my body even though my body doesn't do well. Like, I'm poisoning my body.
Yeah, imagine what state my body would be in if I was still drinking the way that I was.
I can't.
And two, I kind of touched on it. The diet, like, I've been sober, I would say, for 8 years with 2 times in those 8 years that I got drunk. And they were 2 separate days that I got drunk. But I still count myself as 8 years because I can do whatever I want. And
there's no rules.
That's my...
That's your story and you're sticking to it.
But I can say that I got so comfortable in my sobriety and my friendships that it didn't matter that I didn't drink. But now, having this diet... It feels very isolating with my friends that do drink because I can't relate with sweets and foods anymore. Like when I go to a party before, I would be at the snack bar. I would be by the food. I would be eating all of the food, you know, because I'm like, well, I can't drink that. You know, I might as well go to the food. Well, now I can not really eat that many items, you know, or my celiac disease is severe enough I shouldn't eat food that's been cooked on the same pan as gluten, which that seems extreme.
Crazy. Yeah.
But I've already had the blood test done and the number is supposed to be between 0 and 14 and my number was greater than 250. So
no big deal.
From learning that was recently, now they're concerned about my cross-contamination. Like, and I'm having a lot of pushback on that. Like, they want me to be wearing gloves while I make my kids sandwiches, and I'm not doing that. And it's like they're telling me this, and I'm like, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And so I've decided I will make my kids lunch all in one session, and then I have to wash my hands and scrub underneath my nails, which is an interesting thing, but that's what they have told me.
Makes sense.
That crumbs get under your nails, which is gross.
Can you imagine?
Because I never
else?
did that before.
All the other stuff that gets under there.
And I keep my nails pretty short, but still, I was like, oh gosh. Nice. That was like one thing that was like, no, you need to get a nail scrubber if you're not going to be wearing gloves because gluten will get under there. And then, like, you don't even realize your skin
beauty products.
I thought I was 100% gluten-free since the first week of December. Turns out my dry shampoo had wheat in it. And you spray that, if you don't know, directly to your scalp for it to absorb every day because I have 100 hairs. I can't wash them every day, okay?
And because we only have 100 hairs, if they're not washed, it's easier to tell.
Yes. But yeah, so there you guys go.
Do you think that as you get more comfortable in your new diet, you will start to incorporate it into your Albertsons? You will start to incorporate more into your family's meals? Or do you think you're always gonna?
No, yes. I've already changed over flour to gluten-free flour, which you can't tell a difference when you bake something with gluten-free flour. And that there are little changes that I am making that my family will also have. So the sticky part with Albertsons and Market Street is I am not a registered dietitian. And since they are such a big corporate place, I'm not allowed to say gluten-free. I am not allowed. And I actually just submitted some of my content and it had the gluten-free flour in it. And they actually had to send it to the dietitian for approval if I'm allowed to keep that in or if I need to delete that clip of the gluten-free flour, even though they still sell it.
Wow.
But there's so many rules and there's such a big company that liability wise, and so I'm not allowed to say these things. I cannot in an Albertsons video say I have celiac disease, so let's make something celiac free.
That's so wild.
Yeah, I am legally not allowed to say that, and so you might notice that my content slowly is. Because it is food that I am eating, and I am learning new things, which there will still be stuff with dairy and gluten, because my family still eats
Chris
it.
will eat the entire pan.
Yeah, yes. But yeah, so there's like that aspect to it too, where I'm like, okay, I'm not a fraud. This is what I'm allowed to do. This is what I'm not allowed to
Right.
do. This
And
is my job. This is how I feed my family.
My household is still eating.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but so yeah.
Oof,
So
girl.
what's up with you, girl?
Not much,
No,
honey. Just, cruising. It's so funny. It was like, well, it's not funny, but I thought it was so interesting. And especially because we had recorded that morning. Like, we recorded a week ago, and then went about our day, and it was like later in the afternoon, and I was looking out my hospital window, and I was like, oh, look, there's Allie at that hospital.
Yeah.
And then she looked up, I sent it to her, she sends me back a picture, like, we're literally in each other's views at the hospital.
Yeah.
Which we live at opposite sides of
Yes.
our city, so, like, for
Yeah.
us to be like, I'm like, oh, Allie's there, Jess is here, we're both visitors, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been rough for moi.
Yes.
It hasn't been like a long time coming with this, and I think maybe I got very naive about my son because Silas is, God, what do they call it? It's so stupid. They can't give people the asthma title until they're 5, so before they call it reactive airway disease. And so he has reactive airway disease, as my son Miles did as well. Miles was only hospitalized, I think, twice, and they were kind of spread apart. But Silas, in his first to second year of life, was hospitalized 3 times in one season, which was the worst. But each hospitalization was about 2 to 3 days. Most of the time he required oxygen, but he was like you would have never known he was sick if you saw him. Like, in the hospital, he's like running around with oxygen in his nose. So that's what we were kind of used to. He had another hospitalization a little bit after that, and that is very traumatic as a mother. Seeing your kid in any position, like where they have oxygen in their nose or where like they're having to put an IV in your child, is very traumatic. And I think that it like alters the way that you live after it happens just one time. And one of Silas's hospitalization came on the heels of a trip to Disneyland, which when we were in Disneyland, he had to go to the Orange County emergency room and spend some time there. And that is very traumatizing as well, to be on vacation and have to take your child to the hospital. But after all of these hospitalizations, we got him on fluticasone. Flovent is what they call it, for people who can't say it. And it's basically a daily inhalant steroid, and he, up to 2 puffs twice a day, or like we wean him off during the summer just to kind of give his lungs something extra to help when he has 2 siblings that bring home lots of germs. So I, because of this, naively, and because of the years that passed after we put him on Flovent, I naively was like, okay, cool. Like, we got this under control. We have, the medicine that helps him stay out of the hospital, basically. So anytime he's gotten sick, obviously I have PTSD from it, so I get freaked out, but I'm comfortable that I know what I'm doing. I know when it's going to be bad, and that he has a lot of help that he didn't have before. And then this came. So they've been talking about how bad flu and RSV are this year. The strands of flu, the strands of RSV, the strands of norovirus. It's like some like quadruple pandemic or something I saw on SNL last night.
Great place to get your news.
But yeah, and then the doctors had been telling me this. But so he caught RSV in the last week of January. My daughter is on her competitive cheerleading team for her first year, and we had a trip planned, a road trip, to go to Dallas because she was performing at Cowboys Stadium. And we were leaving on Thursday. So Monday, Tuesday, I started to notice that Brady wasn't feeling good. My mom watches him on Tuesdays while I work out, and she freaked out. She couldn't get him to move. She couldn't get him to respond. Like, his eyes were open. He was, like, sitting there, but she was like, he's not okay. She, like, called my husband. My husband had to go. I, left my workout and came, and we were just kind of watching him. And I said, no, it's time we go to the emergency room. So we went to the emergency room. The first visit to the emergency room, I think we waited like 2 hours before we got to go back, which is very nice these days. And after they watched him for a while, the doctor said, he is at the point where we could admit him if you want us to admit him, but there's no beds anywhere. You're going to be in a hall bed for a while, blah, 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 blah. Or you can take him home. You guys know what you're doing. You guys know what to watch for. So it's almost like this false sense of empowerment because I do know what I'm doing. And so, I said, okay, let's take him home, which I have regretted ever since. And then the next day he woke up and he just wasn't better. So I was able to get him into his pediatrician's office, and they were like, the way that they were working around him, I was like, this isn't good. Like, I know that pediatrician. She's been my son and my daughter's pediatrician since they were born. And she got her like top nurse in there. They were putting oxygen on him. They were like doing everything they could to keep him out of the hospital. And again, she said, you could admit him, like, we can call, but I think you guys know what you're doing, so you could take him home. She said, if, the oxygen has to go up higher than this, you need to take him into the emergency room. I got home. It turned up higher than I had to turn it up, and so we go into the emergency room where we proceeded to sit for maybe like 3.5, 4 hours before anyone even saw him, before a doctor even looked at him. And this is so infuriating. I mean, it's a very sensitive topic about the healthcare system these days, but it's so awful. And to have experienced it firsthand for the past 2 weeks is like physically makes me sick how bad it is, because there's a triage nurse, and I don't want to like put any of our healthcare workers down. I know how hard their jobs are these days, and I know how much their hands are tied, but it's like one person sees your patient, whoever the patient is, for literally like a minute, 2 minutes, takes their vitals, and they get to decide what order you go back. They get to decide when and who is seen. And this day, this girl just did not have a good attitude to us. He was on oxygen, so he's like satting at like 92, 93, which here in Albuquerque, the lowest our children can go is 88, 89, which is kind of scary for people that live in
like sea level.
Sea level, thank you. Because they can't go that low. But since we have such high elevation, we can go down to 88, 89. So with oxygen, my son is at 92. And she's like, all the stats are great. I'm like, no. It's not great. Yeah. He's on oxygen. Like, we need to get him seen. And I mean, the work of breathing in his belly was so scary. And that's what they teach every mom. Look at the work of their breathing. If they're contracting, are their ribs showing? Like, they drill that in our heads. So finally I lost my shit. I started talking crap. I was in my son had to go in a different part of the hospital because there was no room for us to sit. And I was sitting there waiting for him to be called, and a nurse came out, and I had seen 2 people complain about their spot in line, and they got taken back right away. I had complained about our spot in line like 3 times. We were not getting seen. Mine was a child. Other people were grown adults. Fine, I'm not here to say who deserves to be seen, but I have a child who can't breathe. So this nurse comes out, and there's like an elderly lady right there, and she's like, when am I gonna get seen? It's been so long. And she's like, soon, honey. Soon. It'll be a few. And I said, bullshit. And she looked at me, and then I went up and I asked, because I saw them take the girl back that just complained. And so I said, no. I said, I needed to speak to the triage nurse. And so she went to go try and tell, and that other nurse had heard me say bullshit. So that's charge nurse.
Oh, gosh.
So she's like, I'm the charge nurse.
Charge nurses are scary.
I'm the charge nurse. She was like, what do you need? And I literally was like, my son isn't seen or something. And she was like, maybe that's when she said I'm the charge nurse. And I literally I wish I was being dramatic. But I was like, you want to come see him? Okay. You want to come see him? Maybe you should come. Come on. Let's go. Come on. I was literally talking like that. I was like, come on, let's go. And so she comes, and the security follows. And I was losing my shit. And so she kept telling me, you need to breathe. You need to breathe. I said, I'm not going to breathe. I'm not going to breathe. I was literally telling her that. Then, so when she gets over to where me and my husband are, she's like, I'm going to talk to him because he's calmer. I said, okay. And so she starts trying to talk to my husband, who doesn't have the answer to any of the questions she's asking. So I'm like, you want to talk to me? So then I just start going in, and kind of set them straight. They were like, okay, we'll go get a doctor. The security guard apologized to me, which I was like, thanks, I know. But also I'm like, I'm 100 pounds. What are you going to do? Like,
also, a mom knows. Like, and
you're going to drag me out of here?
Yeah.
A mom who's fighting for her kid?
Yeah.
Like, ooh, what am I'm so scary. So finally they got the doctor to come, and it was the same doctor that had seen him the night prior. So she was like, let's admit him.
Yeah.
But because of that, we had to get transferred to another hospital that's like 40 minutes away from where we are. It was in the middle of the night. I think I got there at 3 a.m. They put him in the PICU, which is the ICU for kids. And then by like 8 a.m., they were moving us back down to general. And I did not understand why we were going to general, because he was on high flow oxygen. And that's why we had to be in the ICU, because only ICU people are allowed to deal with high flow oxygen. And so by this time, this is Thursday, and we were supposed to leave on a road trip. Obviously, I had to cancel all of that and just book flights for me and my daughter. We were going to leave early Friday, and I knew my son wasn't okay. And he's just in the general floor, like, suffering. And I knew he wasn't okay. I've seen him so many times. And I came home that Thursday night, and honestly, I think that was the hardest thing. Like, I couldn't stop. Like, I went in his room, and I, like, fell into his bed. And I was like, I can't leave him. I can't leave him. Like, something inside of me knew I can't freaking leave him. I can't. Like, I know I can't. So I switched our flights for, like, the 15th time. Got someone to come be with my kids and went down there with him, and my fighting for him got him back in the ICU. And I know that that's why that's why my flights had to get changed. Like, it happened for a reason. So he got back up into the ICU, and that made me feel okay to leave again. And so me and my daughter left, and it was less than 24 hours in Dallas. And again, that was so hard to be, like, pulled apart. And, like, none of the other, I'm so antisocial, so none of the other parents know what's going on. Like, a couple of them knew, but they don't know me well enough to be like, hey, are you okay? Like, do you need a hug? Come sit with me. You know, no one knows what's going on, but I'm there. Like, I have to give my daughter to them, and then I'm, like, 2 hours alone. Thank God they had a lot of shopping.
Yeah.
They had a lot of shopping at this competition. But it was gut-wrenching.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And then I have to be, you know, like, happy for Kyla. Like, I could not take that away from her. And then, you know, I get home, and a couple of days later, I find a note from Miles. He never told me about it, never told anyone about it. It was somewhere where only I would see it. And it says, like, dear Mom, I can't wait to go somewhere special. Like, you got to go with Sissy.
Oh.
And so it's like my heart is just being torn apart. We live 40 minutes from where my kids are. You know, and I'm like, keep thinking it's going to be like 3-4 days, you know, because that's how every single hospital stay has been. Everyone in our family, 3 to 4 days. Well, we ended up being there for 15 days, and it was so difficult because I had to fight for him the entire 15 days, and that was part of my struggle leaving. Yeah. Is like, I knew already how much I had to fight for him already, because none of these people who said that they were, you know, whose job it is to fight for him are not doing it.
Yeah.
And my husband, bless his heart, he just doesn't have that same intuition that I do. Like, no, something's wrong. We need to get this. Like, he's someone that's like, okay, well, the doctor said it was okay. Which you should be able to be like that.
We've been told our whole lives, you know, the doctors have the answer. To just knowingly trust the doctors and nurses.
And not question them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it had been maybe about a week, maybe a little bit longer. And they were going to move him back down to the general floor. And I could just tell, like I had said, all the other times he had been hospitalized on oxygen, he was running around. Like, we had to, like, keep him, like, you're going to rip these out of your face. He was seriously still laying in bed, like, and I'm like, it is not right. So I flipped my shit on the nurse, I flipped my shit on the respiratory therapist, and I flipped my shit on the doctor, finally. The doctor had to leave the first time because it was just me and him. My husband wasn't there yet, and he said he was going to give me some time to calm down. So Let me know, because when you come back, I'm gonna be just, if not more.
Yeah.
So let me know how the space did for you. I'm anxiously attached, so sorry. But he like saw my husband when he got there and was all, your wife. I'm gonna come back in and talk to her. So when he came back in, he brought the charge nurse, who was very, very nice. And she just kept saying she just wants someone to listen to her. She just wants someone to listen to her. And that's what I said. I said, my son is not okay. I know my son. This is not him. And you're going to move us down. You've already done it. I literally was screaming. And everyone hated us from then on out. And that's another thing. Not everyone. I don't want to do that, but the majority, because you're going to stick up for your own. Like if we were at Elephant Bar and a customer was mean to one of our waiters, we'd be like, hey, back off,
Yeah.
And that's the vibe I got. But at the same time, it broke my heart, because I was like, I am a mom fighting for my kid. I am not like in this bed myself just being a B to you guys. No, I'm fighting for my kid, and you should understand that. And I think that there was some that did, but there was certainly some that did not. And then it would get like tension. You could feel tension in the room, which is like, why do I have to have tension with the people that are taking care of my child? And a lot of it goes to say too, is like one of the saddest parts of being up there is there's a lot of kids that are in there without parents. Whether their parents have to be at work and can't get off, or their parents just aren't there. And it makes me think like, okay, well, what happens to those kids?
Yeah, being an advocate for any person in the hospital, you need an advocate.
You have to.
Literally. It goes back to even when my mom had sudden cardiac arrest. Like, I was there every second. And from me being there, I'm the one that noticed the reason why her heart was dropping. Not the doctors, not the nurses. And you sit
there and watch the numbers. You watch them.
Yeah. And I feel bad even saying that, because the nurses and doctors are working so hard, but they can't be everywhere at once. And
their hands are tied in so many situations. Like when we were down on the general floor, I got in a fight with one of the doctors there, because we hadn't seen a doctor since we got moved down to the general floor. So we get moved from the ICU to general, and he's still on high flow. This was the first time, and none of the doctors came in. So we had to buzz. This doctor comes in and she goes, I heard you had some questions. I went, where have you been? Blah, blah, blah. And she's like, just so you know, insurance, when you're on the general floor, that you're only billed to see a doctor once. And when you're on the ICU, you're billed to see a doctor twice. And I said, oh, we're going to blame the insurance. Okay.
Yeah.
So then, fast forward to when I was yelling at this doctor upstairs, he said something again like, if all of us on the ICU unit believe that your child isn't ICU patient, it's insurance fraud for us to keep him up here. And I'm like, and I said again, it's always the insurance, isn't it? It's always the insurance. So this man said, I will do a chest x-ray, because he hasn't had one for a few days. Why? I don't know. He's in the ICU for respiratory failure, but let's not x-ray his chest. So he finally x-rays the chest and I get the reports on my phone, and I'm like, I don't know, I'm trying to send it to my best friend, Evan, who can kind of read medical. And finally the doctor comes in. He has pneumonia. He had a huge fluid sac behind his heart that if it wasn't drained through his pee, which it was, he was going to have to get a chest tube in. And after they ruled out the chest tube is when I actually realized how close he was to getting a chest tube. He literally was going to get one. And the doctor looked at me and said, you're right. Mother's intuition rules all, which was validating. Yeah. He did not have to say that to me.
But think of how far, and think of if you just did trust that everything was fine, how much worse it would have been.
Well, and then as over the course of me being in the hospital, I'm on social media, and for whatever reason, stories flood my timeline that I have no business reading or looking at in the state of mind that I'm in. But one of the fellow coaches' wives I follow posted a GoFundMe for another coach's wife who had a 9-month-old baby with RSV, went to the hospital, was in the hospital for 4 days, got discharged even though the child was still wheezing, still had labored breathing. They were back in the ER 2 hours later, putting a tube in their mouth. The tube got filled with mucus, cut off oxygen for 14 minutes. So now they're dealing with that.
Oh my God.
And this is what I'm reading as I'm sitting next to my kid in the ICU going, And this mom never knew. How would this mom know? To push back when they say, okay, you guys can go home. That's all you want when you're in the hospital is to go home.
That's what you're waiting to hear.
You're dying to go home. But I have done this enough times that it scares the crap out of me for them to tell me to go home, because I'm like, I don't think he's ready, or how am I going to deal with this?
I'm not a doctor. I'm like you said, I'm a mom.
I'm a mom, and I can go off of that. But, you know, and there was a couple times in there that I wanted to tell those doctors. I mean, I pretty much am a doctor now after all the stuff. I was administering all the medication. I was administering all the breathing treatments, even in the ICU. They're like, oh, he takes it from you better, so you do it. They just stand there, you know, and watch. And obviously they don't do that with every patient, but at the same time, like, as a mom, at some point you get so frustrated and you're like, am I the doctor? Yeah. I think I'm a doctor now.
Yeah.
Like, I've got a medical degree, which is so insulting to the people that really do, but that's kind of what it makes you feel like. And God, it was probably the hardest thing I've been through. Yeah. Because to be away from my older children was horrible and horrifying, and they were feeling it in so many ways. My dogs. Yeah.
And dealing with all of this on top of the lack of sleep, which as a normal person without normal sleep, you feel insane. Mm-hmm. And so to have to be on and taking care of your kid and making sure your kid's being advocated for 100% while you haven't slept, you haven't eaten, you're worried about your kids that are 40 minutes away, you're worried about your dogs that are chewing up God knows what, you know, and then with on top of then trusting that the Mimis and grandmas, everyone's doing everything that you want, even though you can't control any of it. Right. You know, I can't imagine. And
it was awful.
Imagine it, honestly.
It was awful. It was horrible. And I don't wish it on anybody. And it was, I think about these things and I'm like, gosh, like, it's so much for a person to go through. Like, how do they get through it? How did I get through that? And it's just like, I don't even know, but you do, you know, like, every single day waking up and knowing your situation was the same, like, that's so hard too, you know, like, not knowing, like, oh, today might be the day that we go home. It's like, no, we're gonna be here for 4 more days, 5 more days, like, we don't even know how long we're gonna be here for. Preparing for that, and I am such a homebody. I love my home. I don't want to be anywhere else besides my home.
And then too, coming home, like the first night you didn't sleep.
No,
you know, because you're so worried and checking every hour. It's like almost all you want to do is go home, but then when you get here, the new obstacles that you're faced with. Yeah.
And that's something that's so scary too that you don't think about. It's almost like when you go home with your brand new baby for the first time and you're like, no, I'm not ready. No. Can you guys come with
push
me?
This baby back in.
I don't know what I'm doing, this thing. Yeah. That's kind of how it feels. And so, it was so rough and emotionally so rough. I don't know how I could have done it if I wasn't as grounded emotionally as I am. And it's crazy because I don't feel like my emotions. Obviously I yelled at the doctor, I yelled at this, like, my emotions can pop off at any time, but like deep in my soul I am so grounded, the most grounded I've ever been in my life. And I just think that that's the only way around how I've gotten through this, because it's been a nightmare. And don't mean to drop this little nugget, but I am gonna say the doctor lives in my neighborhood. We found out.
So it's not just the person you yell at and never see again.
He was like, I actually go running a lot. I was like, oh, do you? I'll have my golden retriever with me without his muzzle. No, I'm just kidding. That right, Pagan would just jump. Yeah. But no, it was pretty funny. He said something like, I think we've built a rapport here. And I'm like, why? Because you let me yell at you and I was right. And then me and Philip just kept joking because there was one other thing that, like, him and I, it's when he found out that we were neighbors. Oh. And then when he found out I was right, I told Philip, God, I just want to know what he thought in his head. I just want to know the thought that happened in his head when he was all, oh, she was right. Oh, he has pneumonia. Oh, like, I just want to know what you thought.
I wonder if he was like, oh, they're the ones with the jack skeleton.
We did talk about Halloween in this neighborhood.
Which house is his? Did he go hard on the decor or not so hard?
I'm going to tell you, we don't live in the richest part of our neighborhood, and he definitely does.
I mean, that's okay.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
Makes sense.
So that was... It's crazy to be out on the other side and to see Silas running around the house almost as if nothing happened. Like, it is such a mind twist for
Yeah.
you. Like, you're like, was that a fever dream?
Well, even when you text me that you guys were going to the ER, I saw him on Monday. And he was jumping up and down, playing with the balloon, happy, going, like, and Jess then texts me and she's like, no, I'm at the ER with Silas. I can't talk about this right now. And I'm like, excuse me?
Like, I was just there. Yeah.
Yesterday, he was like the cutest I had ever seen him with that balloon. Balloona,
Yeah.
Teddy on my balloona.
He
Like,
loves balloons.
and I was just like, oh my gosh, because Silas he is a light. Like,
He's
he
such
is
a light.
And
always
maybe it's
happy.
third children, because this other third child is like the light dude. So I'm like, maybe I should have had a third. No. But no, it is. He's always happy, you know. I mean, he gets triggered at
Right.
points, but what kid doesn't?
Unless you know.
Yeah. And
Right.
then I'm like, okay, bye.
Yeah.
Bye, I love you.
He really is generally
But, yeah.
so happy. And that was another thing, and they talked about the steroids doing this to me, which was so funny. A nurse had to explain it to me. She was like, the steroids are making him mad. And I was like, really? And she was like, have you heard of roid rage? And I was all, yes, definitely heard of that before.
Yes.
But that was hard too, you know. Every question is, stop it, mommy, don't.
Yeah.
Mommy, stop, leave me alone. And that's like so defeating as a mother. But it was wild to me because Kyla was in the NICU for 10 days. So Silas had her beat. But she was in the NICU at that exact same hospital. And that's the only other that's the only other time I've stayed at that hospital was when my daughter was in that hospital.
Wow.
And I was drinking and my daughter was a newborn. And so the crazy thing too is the PICU is the level above the NICU. We got to stay in the Ronald McDonald House, which if you don't know what a Ronald McDonald House is and you're ever in the hospital, please look it up. It's an amazing resource. We got to stay in the rooms in the Ronald McDonald House, and you had to go through the PICU to get to those rooms.
Oh.
So when at 3 a.m, when my son was just transported, because Philip went in the ambulance with him and I drove behind, I'm going in there. I get that flash of the memory of having to go up into that room to sleep for the 2 hours I slept, and I was like, oh my God, it was just like washing over me. You know, and at the NICU, they kicked you out for 1 hour twice a day from 7 to 7. They kick you out. Your parents can't even be in there.
Oh, wow.
And that was hard for me. And I would always go up the street and get a drink.
Which is so crazy.
Every time.
That is so insane.
And breastfeed my child who was sick in the hospital. Okay, and I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Guilt, mom shaming, but just not as much, more of like the wow. Like, you were just so in such a different place. Your head couldn't deal with what you were going through without that, you know? And like, it's so crazy to think that I have just now gone through something so much harder in the exact same spot and didn't even... I mean, I did think about alcohol because we watched the Super Bowl in the hospital, and I thought about how hard that would be if you were a drinking parent.
Yeah.
If
you would have been sneaking beers in. Totally.
Totally.
Like, I could see you doing that, or putting it in a Yeti cup
or something, and drinking because Super Bowl's big for our family.
Yeah,
Duh.
that's like Christmas.
Right, but we don't drink, you know,
Yeah.
and so us, like, already feeling like, God, this kind of sucks watching the Super Bowl in the hospital. That halftime show hit, though, and I was freaking screaming and yelling, and I was like, I gotta stop, because we're on the ICU floor, like, I can't just watch this, like, normal. But I was thinking about, and it was weird that I didn't even think about me drinking in that situation. I was thinking about other parents.
Yeah.
How other parents that drink, how do they deal with it? Do they bring alcohol in? Do they go and get drunk? Do they come and stay the night? You know, I was just thinking about that because I know how I was as a drinking parent, and I remembered going and drinking when Kyla was in the NICU. And that was on, anytime I thought about drinking, it was more that, like, gosh, how do parents do it that normally drink? Like, are there parents that would just go this whole 15 days without drinking because their kid's in the hospital and then get back to their, like, normal because they are casual drinkers? Or is there people, you know, that my brain was kind of going back and forth about that, but it was never like, I want to drink.
Yeah. It would have made things so much harder. And especially being 40 minutes away. Which, I mean, you can get a DWI in 10 minutes.
Right.
But just
I
even
drank,
the drive and the way back. Yeah. Like, it's,
I've been sick and think of how much more my body would have been hurting. I would have been stressed.
More emotional.
More
Think
emotional.
of how much crazier you could have
My
been.
fights.
Yeah, your fights, you probably would have been like, let's fight. Let's go.
There was a couple times that I was all squabble. Like, let's freaking go. But yeah, it's been rough. It's been rough. And I think that with the way that the world is now, we're all feeling it. So even though we're in our own little messes, like, it's like, are we all in a mess? Like, It feels messy right now. It feels different.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know what's coming. And that can also be so scary when you're in your own mess.
Yeah.
But I like to just channel my inner Allie and find the glimmers and look for the good in every single day. And I think that that's kind of how I got through. But something about me is I also sit in the reality. And I think that can be a little bit hard for people. But for me, as a tool to sit in the reality of it, I kind of am able to get through it faster when it's done. Because, like, I sat in it when it was happening. I didn't avoid it. I sat there and was like, this is happening right now. I was aware of it. And so it doesn't haunt me as much afterwards.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting you say that. Yeah. Well, that's a little bit of the real life, what's going on in our life. I feel like we're both in such a different space now, being out of that. I mean, we still both have so much going on and still trying to figure it all out, but sometimes it just feels good to check in with you guys and also let you guys know that we are human.
We have crazy stuff going on. If you noticed my disheveled appearance last week, that's why.
No, you still looked great.
Not a hag?
No, just like little haggy.
Little haggish.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so you know what, Yankee Doodle Dandy and Doctor, don't mess with us. We'll come after you, but I hope that you guys have not been going through it as hard, and if you have, like, we're here.
Yeah.
We get it. We love you, babes.
Talk soon.